Hello, everyone. I'm Mystery.
And I am Mortimer the Authenticator, and we have the Duality of Man.
Today, we're going to talk about a very serious topic. It's bullying, because I just heard about a very terrible story out of New Jersey that really requires a conversation. Because this kid who had done nothing wrong, by all accounts, he was a good student, was bullied horribly to the point where he ended up taking his own life. And the worst part is, the school knew about it and basically did nothing to stop this.
I think it's
Uh,
also a good opportunity to talk about the different kinds of bullying, because bullying in real life doesn't always take the form of the classic, 80s style, the Stephen King bullies of people who beat the shit out of you. Some of the worst bullying that ever happens to a person doesn't always have to involve even laying a finger on them.
I miss the old school bullying. A guy pushes you into the locker, you punch him in the stomach, it's over.
Um, Speaking as someone who probably could not survive being pushed into a locker, I am glad we've got rid of one kind of bullying, but my issue is let's get rid of the other one while we're at it as well. And it's also interesting to note that in many ways you could call the more abstract form of bullying feminine bullying, because it very much usually relies on the abstraction of moral superiority, which is a very that is the power that women have in society. They define the moral pecking order. So morally shaming or shunning people is very much a very feminine way of bullying categorically.
There could be a whole subject about women being allowed to define the moral pecking order, but uh, let's get into this story about this kid. The parents of the 17-year-old boy who took his own life last year as a result of relentless bullying at a prestigious New Jersey boarding school said the last thing he told them was that he was doing better and that he loved them. So just because somebody says they're doing all right doesn't mean that they are.
Yeah, see also our talk on men and suicide for that conversation.
His parents, Elizabeth and Bill Reed, spoke with Good Morning America about their late son Jack on Tuesday, days after Lawrenceville School acknowledged it fell tragically short in protecting their child. That is an understatement. And we'll get into exactly why later.
Where the fuck is this school? Because my town is named Lawrenceville, but we don't have a school in it, so I'm assuming it's a different Lawrenceville. I'm just curious now.
It's in New Jersey.
Okay, so there is also a Lawrenceville, New Jersey. There are actually two Lawrenceville, Pennsylvanias. There's one where I'm at, which is like 15 minutes away from Corning, New York, and the other, which is a suburb of Williamsport, which is an hour away from me. But there's apparently also one in New Jersey. People need to be more creative with their town names, damn it.
See, they say that we were well aware of what was going on. I believe this is the school talking, and we were encouraging him. He advocated for himself. No, this is the parents talking. Sorry. He advocated for himself. He talked to the school. He talked to his friends. We were meant to see him the next morning, and the last words we spoke to him about were, "Dad, I'm doing better. I love you," his father recalled.
So in other words,
Lawrenceville
he
officials were aware of the merciless bullying.
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Now, go on. What
interrupt.
were you saying?
So in other words, he did basically everything that you're supposed to do by the book of like the anti-bullying seminars we all get. Tell a teacher, advocate for yourself, etc., etc. He did all the things he was supposed to do, and A, it didn't work. B, it continued regardless, and the school did nothing when he actually advocated for himself.
But the thing, when you tell the school, it's pretty sure that's implying that the school is supposed to do something in return.
Like maybe this is just down to one of the things I hate about modern society, which is the vilification of causality. But dear dear people who apparently don't have fucking common sense, when someone identifies a problem and goes so far as to tell you they have identified a problem, usually it's because they're looking for some kind of assistance or a solution to said problem. Like that is how people who are governed by basic freaking causality function. We define problem, we try to figure solution to problem, and when we fail to figure solution to problem, we seek help from others to find a solution to the. God damn it!
All right, I'm going to keep reading. It says Lawrenceville officials were aware of the merciless bullying and cruel behavior toward Jack before his death on April 30th, 2022, and said in a statement Sunday that there were steps that the school should have taken in hindsight and did not, obviously. The
Yeah, no
statement
shit.
was sorry, I'm a bit under the weather. The statement was part of an agreed upon settlement between the boarding school and Jack's parents. They should give them literally all the money.
Considering
Despite
that
being
the life of a child is priceless to a parent, or should be, yeah, that
despite being
that
in
school should go
constant contact,
bankrupt now. Basically, it
yeah,
won't, but it should.
despite being in constant contact with her son before his death, his mother, who is a clinical psychologist, said she saw no signs that the situation would take such a heartbreaking turn. So, like, even when your mom is a doctor who should know these things, like people can hide their pain and trauma very well, and
Well, this is also yet another good excuse, I guess, to talk about the stupidity of how modern psychology deals with male emotions and deals with male expressions. I mean, we all have seen or heard of the current APA guidelines that basically institutionalize the idea that if you have emotional problems as a man, it's your own fault, basically because of toxic masculinity, herder. So at some level, I don't even necessarily blame the mother for that. I blame the idea that she's operating within the like modern psychological framework, and the modern psychological framework, especially where it has a blind spot for the humanity of men, is bullshit.
see. The mother says that everyone in this room probably knows someone that was bullied as a child, and you do suffer the scars of that. What we've realized from our situation is that it can lead to death. This is a very serious issue, and the internet absolutely makes it even much worse for kids today. His mother remembered Jack for his kindness and how he lived by the golden rule. Now, looking for ways to move forward, his grief stricken parents have started the Jack Reed Foundation for the Education and Prevention of Bullying and Cyberbullying, which is good. But I think what's very important and one thing that the article hasn't mentioned yet is that the way that he was bullied. Did you see the video that I sent you that discussed
Yes,
how he was bullied?
again, that's why I opened with talking about the feminine ways, or the feminine kind of bullying, because the way he was bullied was he was portrayed as against the moral pecking order in the rumor mill.
Uh, yeah. So basically, somebody falsely accused him of SA. I don't know if we're allowed to say the full thing on YouTube, but he was falsely accused of SA, and yeah, the school investigated. They found that it was not true, but they didn't really take the actions to squash the rumors or really punish the people responsible for spreading it around. And I think falsely accusing somebody of that is it's evil. It's just downright evil, especially when there's literally no evidence of it, and even a high school can investigate and find out that it's not true.
It's like accusing someone of being a pedo, or being a lyncher or something. It's that threshold of it's you actually would get less moral fervor out of people by accusing him of murder in the rumor mill, rather than that particular crime. And again, I hate to bring this up, but I keep noticing parallels to the broader scope of men's issues. Gee, where have we seen this phenomena before in the field of false accusations caused by people who wanted to ruin someone's reputation in the rumor mill? Hmm. See also
Yeah,
the
and
duality of men and domestic abuse and duality of men, and I think we did one on sexual assault, but I don't know.
I don't recall. But if not, we should absolutely do one. But the thing is, this is the thing that can really destroy like the entirety of your life. It's not just something that could end in school. Like this is the kind of thing that could follow you like through college and throughout the rest of your life. And quite frankly, I would rather be jumped and have a bunch of people just kick the crap out of me because at least then once the beating stops, it's over.
I I mean, I'd rather just neither of those things happen, but yeah, to be fair, I'd rather I honestly don't know if I could. I honestly don't know if I could make that choice, but I I can tell you that your average person, if they think that everyone around them thinks that they're immoral, irrespective of any of the actual like external harms that might do to someone's reputation, just the knowledge that everyone around you thinks you are immoral, that alone can weigh on a decent person's conscience like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, especially if you're a very social person, very outgoing and very involved in the community around you, and then somebody accuses you of this, and then all of a sudden all the things that were an important part of your life all of a sudden, bam, cut off because nobody wants to, associate with somebody who was accused of this sort of thing. And it really goes to
Espe-
show that
Go
the
ahead. Sorry.
people like feminists will go on and on about there being a grape culture. I think you have to call it grape now on YouTube. A
Yes.
grape culture, and that this kind of thing is like tolerated. No, it's not tolerated. This story shows that it is very much not tolerated, and how this kind of accusation can be wielded as a very dangerous weapon against against somebody's enemies to drive them to the point where they end up taking their own life. It's sickening.
And what's worse is this is not a new phenomena. This is entirely as old as the frickin' hills. Back in the day, a accusation of something like adultery could get you tied to the frickin' whipping post. And don't you dare say that it was legitimate back then because people had stricter morals or some crap, because just like today, you could start a rumor like that and it would be all over town back in the day. And in fact, there are many ways in which it had less um, evidence behind it, because if you started a rumor among your neighbors, I'm thinking once again of like Puritan Salem and so on, those accusations could catch fire in a small town like nobody's business. And
And back
again,
then, there were
yeah,
less ways to prove your innocence.
yeah. And again, if it doesn't matter if you did it or not. If everyone around you thinks you did it, especially it's worse if you would have never done that in the first place. If you would categorically never have done that, and you try to defend yourself or you try to explain to people that it's not true, and no one believes you, talk about being dehumanizing. Talk about being gaslighting. It, when people think erroneously that you are a bad person, and no matter how many ways you try to explain your way out of it, they don't believe you, that is something that drives you freaking bananas.
Yeah, the thing is, this guy, like I mentioned before, he was very involved in his school. I believe he was the head of his school dorm. Like he was involved with clubs. Like people knew this guy, and still this thing like spread like wildfire. And like the people who should know him and should not believe this about him were still got caught up and ended up turning against him.
Actually, I kind of wonder if that might be the reason why it was so effective. If maybe part of this was trying to take the golden boy down a peg. Like if he was the stereotypical high achieving jock character, and somebody started this rumor out of pure pettiness to try and knock the golden boy down a peg. I could actually see a situation where that could be a thing, and why the accusation continued, not because anyone believed it, but because it was vindictive Schadenfreude, basically.
Yeah. And you know what? The person who started this, the person who, you know, literally destroyed this kid's entire life and future, I doubt anything is going to happen to them.
No, no, they're just gonna keep going, and and I guess there is one minor silver. I actually I don't even want to call it a silver lining, but there is a possible there's a possible neutral way to spin this, which is at least he didn't make it to college. Because if this stuff was already happening to him in high school, in a college environment where the aforementioned grape and essay hysteria is at a fever pitch, and the faculty goes out of its way to make it so, this kid would have been the next Brock Turner in 5 seconds flat. Still wish he had lived. I just think that if this hadn't been what did him in, it would have done him in by college, at the very least.
You know what? The school was absolutely disgusting because what? All right, if you investigated and found it not to be true, what justification do you have to not act on this and try and save this kid's reputation and save
Yeah,
his
shouldn't
life?
you have made this common knowledge? Shouldn't you? I mean, I hate when bureaucracies and schools get involved in people's business and stuff and whatnot, but this would have been one of the justifiable cases of the next morning's announcement should have been, by the way, we as the school have done our homework and we have found this to be false. So do not believe this freaking rumor. Of course, that probably would have just incensed the people who started the rumor even more, and they would come up with worse shit. But again, this is a classic case of the difference between masculine bullying and feminine bullying. Masculine bullying is I will beat the shit out of you. Feminine bullying is I will destroy you in the moral dimension entirely.
I think it gets this turns out it's even worse. The article says in spring 2021, an untrue rumor spread across the school's campus that Jack had committed sexual assault by kissing a girl. By that September, a false claim that Jack was a rapist were shared anonymously to a nationwide student app.
Whoo boy, that when the entire nation is Salem, Massachusetts, circa 1692, that doesn't help matters. Hmm.
So, maybe he's like hanging out with like a girl who was a friend of his. You know, they find themselves in a romantic situation. He moves in to kiss her, like in all those ridiculous movies. The
Mm-hmm.
girl, doesn't like it, and like he obviously and he like backs off, walks away, turns around. People start spreading rumors that he's a rapist, and
And
now
can we even just talk about the fact that kissing is now in the realm of sexual assault? Can we talk about that, or essay, I suppose? Um, can we talk about that, because the phrase "stealing a kiss" is a thing that exists. Like, we all know that it occasionally happens, and it used to be seen as a fairly innocent thing when someone would steal a kiss from someone. Yes, it can definitely go too far, and yes, there are circumstances where it might actually be a little bit creepy. But from the sound of it, it sounds like at at the most he stole a kiss from someone who he was at least close enough to think that was might be okay. And more likely even than that is they were in a romantic situation regardless, and he didn't read the right signals, which I'm sorry. Are we literally going to make autism a crime or make being socially awkward a crime? Because that is basically tantamount to what happened. He misread a social signal, a nonverbal social cue, and for this he was accused of one of the worst crimes it's possible for one human to commit against another human. Oh God.
And you were right about the college thing, because if this was on a nationwide student app, if he went to college, like there would probably be a ton of other kids who were also in college with him who would have found out about it through this app.
Yeah. It again. He would have been Brock Turner before he'd even signed the admissions form. Or Gian Gomeshi.
See,
That's another popular case of this happening. I mean, how? Look at what happened just a couple weeks ago to Justin Roiland, and he was completely acquitted, and people still think he did it. Like, have you guys heard of the concept of innocent until proven freaking guilty?
I mean, have they even heard of the concept of innocence?
I well, that's another conversation entirely. It's officially gotten to the point where it's basically the social justice equivalent of original sin. Every man is a potential essay, or every man is a potential rapist. Like that's the feminist version of original sin. Every man will be deemed as capable of doing this most heinous crime possible until proven otherwise. Also, small print, there is no mechanism by which we can prove it otherwise, because everyone knows how creepy male feminists are. So even hardcore adhering to the ideology will not save you. In fact, it'll probably make it worse when you do get rid. Look at what I mean. Joss Whedon was a feminist saint for 2 decades, and they still pilloried him after all that bullshit. So, yeah, even adhering to the ideology will not save you from this.
The article goes on. A classmate who had been previously disciplined for bullying Jack was expelled for an unrelated incident. While packing up his things completely unsupervised, he falsely told other students that Jack was responsible for him being kicked out of school.
I mean, I
So
can
this,
bel I can believe that part. I can believe a petty bullying son of a you know what going. Well, gee, the guy I was bullying got me kicked out of school, asshole. I can believe that. Doesn't make it right, but I can at least see how that happened.
like it says, that same night, Jack put a Bible in his gym shorts pocket and wrote a note directing his parents to a Google Doc that outlined his helplessness before dying by suicide.
I mean, if if Kyle Rittenhouse hadn't gotten the public attention that he got, this probably would have happened to him too. And I'm almost sure now, based on that description, that this was a case of, hey guys, let's take down the Golden Boy. Just for the record, to everyone who will ever listen to this, I didn't like I didn't like the idea that nerds got bullied in high school, but that doesn't mean I wanted to flip it and see the jocks get bullied by the nerds either. Like the again, I don't want to flip the oppression dynamic so that we can get ours. I just want it to stop. Is that too much to ask?
Uh, Nelson says bullies need to get kneecapped and permanently disabled. Let's see how much they bully when they can never walk again. Bit of an extreme
I,
solution.
I mean, as someone who was born disabled, I wouldn't wish it on anyone else. So no, but I understand the sentiment. I think just like with my standard for false accusations in court cases and stuff, I think we need to start instituting the idea that people who falsely spread a rumor like that should be held to the same standard as someone who actually did the crime. I.e., if you falsely accuse someone of drape or SA, you should be treated just like someone who you should be disbarred and defrocked just like someone who actually was a rapist or a sexual or a assayer. That's my standard. Just like Amber Heard probably should have gone to jail for domestic abuse, just like she would have had Johnny Depp go if she had her way. That's the only way we're going to ever stop false accusations is if falsely accusing someone of a thing it carries the same weight as actually doing the thing. Because because we know that these crimes are considered the most morally depraved thing someone can do, to the point that rapists will be killed in prison usually by the other inmates. Um, because we know how detrimental it is to be accused of that, if you willingly and knowingly spread a false rumor that someone did this most morally depraved of things, that in and of itself is just about equal in my mind as being morally depraved. That means you wanted to see someone demonized and dehumanized. That means you wanted to see someone's reputation completely destroyed. That means you basically wanted to do everything except kill them, which in some ways is crueler. It's the I'm going to destroy you in everything but literal terms, which is crueler because now you have to be left alive suffering.
This situation gets even worse the more I read this article.
God damn it.
It says, before his death, Jack approached school officials trying to get them to intervene. Lawrenceville officials investigated the rumors and found them to be false, but never publicly shared their findings or told Jack or his parents, despite knowing how severe the bullying had gotten. So the school didn't even tell Jack that he knew that they knew he was innocent.
Okay, that every motherfucker in this school should be fired, and not only fired, but their like educational certificates should be taken away. They should not be allowed to continue in the teaching profession at all. Do not pass go. Do not collect teaching certificates. Damn it.
See, as part of the school's settlement with Jack's parents, it will create a new dean's position that will focus solely on mental health issues and bullying on campus. A stipulation should be that everybody who knew about this should be fired.
Yeah. If you knew he was innocent and you didn't publicize it, you didn't even tell the people with whom it was directly concerned that you knew and therefore believed him and therefore were on his side. That alone probably would have saved his life. By the way, if he knew that those in a position of authority over him knew that he was innocent, that could have been the difference between I am so distraught that I need to end my life and I can make it through this. So yeah, no, you all can rot in a jail cell for all I give a fuck. No.
Unlike public schools, which have to abide by state laws that regulate investigations and responses to bullying, private institutions have less strict rules for how they address bullying. Like, I don't care if you don't have to abide by the rules. Like, what kind of moral person are you to just allow this to continue without doing something to help this young guy who you know to be innocent?
I'm almost sure that one of the teachers or principals or something was the like artsy hipster kid in high school, and they were just enjoying watching the golden boy get taken down a peg. I am almost sure that someone somewhere. I am almost sure that happened. I'm not making any claims that it actually happened, but man, does it make everything make sense if that's the case.
You know what I think it was? I think it was okay if we come out, on his side with a public stance against false accusations. Then, if somebody,
Will get called right wing
does get
extremists and publicly shamed. Yeah.
then if someone does get essayed and they don't come to us, they'll say that we, fostered a culture that people were
Yeah,
afraid
the
to speak up
aforementioned
for their
grape culture
opinion.
accusations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That
just
that, that might be it. That might be it too. That might be it too.
thing is, I don't care what you might have been accused of or what hypothetical situation could have come up in the future. If a kid is in trouble right there, right then and there, and you can do something about it, you do it. Damn the consequences.
Well, that, and also, if everyone freaked out about this and were in the wrong, every anti SJW voice, left, right, center, or sideways, would have come out in defense of you, and they are more numerous, and they speak for the actual people of the world more than the social justice warriors do. So you could have gotten praise from everyone except the SJWs if that were the case. And you're a private institution anyway, so it's not like you're relying on public funding and they actually could get the pull strings to get your funding cut. So yeah, no, your cowardice cost someone their life. You are scum. Goodbye.
But here's the thing: I've always believed that conflict between kids at school is inevitable, and to a certain degree, it's just a part of growing up. I often even sometimes think that it could be healthy, to teach someone to stand up to somebody who's giving them shit in their life, to have some confidence and fight for themselves. But when it's to like, but here's the thing: when it's to this extreme a degree, with this a severe of an accusation, like they should not have to be the only one defending themselves in this situation.
Well, that's the thing. It's yet again the difference between masculine bullying and feminine bullying, because masculine bullying is so tied to physical force usually. Um, you can have that single, the single confrontation, and now it's behind me, and now I'm stronger for having gone through it, kind of thing. But when it's feminine bullying that's abstract, and in particular in the moral dimension, i.e., I'm not going to bully you by hitting you, I'm going to bully you by insinuating that you are subhuman and immoral, um, that doesn't work, because the people doing the bullying have the moral high ground, because that's the insidious part of it.
Yeah. So I do have some stats here. These are from Pacers National Bullying Prevention Center, so they should be fairly accurate. One out of every five students report being bullied. A higher percentage of male than of female students report being physically bullied, 6%, 4%, whereas a higher percentage of female than male students report being subject of rumors, 18% versus 9%, and being excluded from activities on purpose. That just seems to, sort out how men and women bullies, because these
Yeah.
men will usually like will be looked down upon if they start bullying a girl. They'll be looked down on by other guys, like say like she's a girl, she's obviously weaker than you. You're just a loser if you're like have to pick on a girl.
Hmm.
But because with girls, like the way they pick on girls are like it can be so conniving, subtle, and insidious that you don't even know it's happening until you're already locked in their death trap.
Again, the difference between masculine and feminine bullying. Now, my solution to both of these would be, okay, with regards to like 1 in 5 people who get physically bullied. I'm sorry, but your response to bullying shouldn't be gendered at all. Like, I, this is yet another case of our society does not give a fuck about men or boys. Guys, fuck whether he's a girl or not. If you see someone getting bullied, you should morally shame the bully, regardless of what gender the guy is. It's this pig-headed insistence of, well, he's a guy, so he can fend for himself. Well, should he have to? Like, seriously? Are we that just cavalier about when bad things happen to men? Well, he's a man, so he can handle it. So I don't feel obligated to do anything. And then they come back and shoot up the school or what have you, or they kill themselves. So like,
With regards to male bullying, like when I say he should stand up for himself, what I'm trying to say is that like his parents, like a teacher, should give him support so that he
so that
finds
he
the strength
can
to
do
prove
that.
them.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm not saying therefore we should expect, victims to be doormats, because that's victim culture and that's also bullshit. But what I'm saying is, I find it a bit jarring that more men get physically bullied, probably at least to some degree, because bullies know that they can get away with physically mistreating other boys because nobody gives a fuck about men. Um, Whereas, like you say, if he even touches a hair on a woman's head, an entire avalanche of bullshit will descend on him in 5 minutes. I would like to extend our culture in such a way that seeing any kind of physical bullying, results in getting the shit kicked out of you by the masses. But I would also like to say that just because it's not physical doesn't mean it's okay, you assholes.
yeah. But I think that. Hold on, I have some statistics, and then I'm going to make my point. Of the students who reported being bullied, 13% were made fun of or called names or insulted. 13% were the subject of rumors. 5% were pushed, shoved, tripped, or spit on, and 5% were excluded from activities on purpose. So it looks to me like the female or the girl's form of bullying occurs far more often than the male form of bullying does.
Yeah, especially now, because we wisely in the 90s and 2000s cracked down on physical bullying. So when if ever are we gonna crack down on the female version? Oh my, crickets. That's fascinating. Hmm.
I think one of the aspects also is that Jordan Peterson made the point of saying that all male interactions are underpinned by the threat of violence. Basically, like every man has a point where if you go over the line, chances are he's going to punch you in the face.
Uh-huh.
So, like, if you're going to bully another guy, you have to find someone that is so much weaker than you that he wouldn't even think about fighting back.
Yeah, hence the classic, nerd getting shoved in the locker by the jock, etc. The classic Stephen King style bully.
Yeah,
But there are definitely other kinds. If the male form of bullying takes the form of your average Stephen King villain, the female form of bullying takes the form of the Salem witch trials. And I want to highlight that specifically because, as we know, the people doing the finger pointing in that case were preteen and teenage girls. So yeah,
diabolical creation on God's earth. Just also, you got to think about it because in the form of like saying being excluded from activities on purpose, like like what can you really do about that? Like, say you go to a teacher and the teacher acknowledges that these people are purposely excluding you. What the hell is the teacher going to do about it? They can't make them hang out with you.
well, it's also, it's basically just the logical conclusion of the logic that goes, we don't like that kid, or he's useless in this game, so we're gonna pick him last, or we don't want to take him on our team, so he gets picked last. It's that magnified by like a billion.
Well, here's the thing though. Even that, like, say you sorry, like I said, I'm not feeling well.
Yeah, yeah. Take your time.
But like for example, say you are bad at basketball, and so everybody picks you for basketball last. If you go out and you practice and become better at basketball and show them that you've gotten better, chances are they'll stop picking you last. But with this, it's not necessarily that you're not of use. It's that we don't like you because of who you are, and therefore, no matter what you do, we're not going to include you.
Or in the case of the aforementioned getting picked last example, you can go find your own freaking activities. Whereas if if no one if no one wants to associate with you socially, we know categorically they've done studies on what social isolation does to human beings. Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. You're as good as condemning them to an early grave.
Yeah, so complete social isolation can drive some people insane.
Yeah, because we're a social species. I mean, I brought up the last time we talked about this the example of Harlow's monkeys. In primate species, and they've done studies on this with monkeys, we would actually prefer a nurturing social interaction over a more basic need like food and shelter sometimes. Because they did the thing with Harlow's monkeys where they gave one mother the feeding tube but made it terrifying and gave the other mother lots of nurturing qualities but didn't give her a feeding tube. And the monkeys spent so much time with the nurturing mother that they starved to death because they would rather starve to death with the nurturing mother than get fed by the scary one.
See, a slightly higher portion of female than of male students report being bullied at school, 24% versus 17%.
Now, I want
Bullies.
to highlight I want to highlight once more for the record, just because boys report it less doesn't mean it is happening to boys less. It could very easily be the fact that boys know that their issues matter less to people, and so they don't bother reporting it because they know it won't do any good. It's not the patriarchy of feminist imagining where the reason why men don't report shit is just because bad shit never happens to them. It's simply because, sadly enough, we treat men like we used to treat slave classes, by and large, and most men either will intuitively come to know that or rationally come to know that in their lives, and therefore they would just give up on anyone else giving a shit about them. And usually that results in either them going insane due to social isolation and murdering a bunch of people, or them going insane due to social isolation and killing themselves. And the killing themselves tends to happen something like 100-fold more often than the person who goes nuts and then takes it out on other people, which in and of itself speaks to the good nature of a lot of men, kind of inherently. Men would rather hurt themselves than other people, by and large. The contrary example is vanishingly rare.
I honestly feel that one of the reasons why it might be higher is that the female types of bullying, it's easier to get away with because it leaves less obvious signs that it's happening until it's too late.
Yeah,
Like if
it's
physical bullying, you can see scars, bruising,
mhm,
um, that kind of thing. So you know that something happened.
mhm. It's also worth noting that there are initiatives to stop physical bullying. There are no initiatives to stop social bullying. None. Yet.
I,
Because
there
it's
are
hard
some
for people to
programs.
even understand that social bullying is a form of bullying most of the time.
There are some programs to fight things like cyberbullying, but how effective can those things really be when like new platforms and social media are popping up all the time?
Well, it's also, and I was going to bring this up earlier, but I didn't want to derail you. You were in the middle of a thing. But guys, stop blaming the internet for your problems. The internet does not cause anything. All it does is amplify the way human behavior already works. Like, whatever tendencies people show on the internet are tendencies they already fucking had. And claiming that the only kind of social bullying that counts is cyberbullying because that gives us an excuse to demonize the internet and blame the internet for all our problems doesn't do shit and aims your weapon at the fucking wrong target. It's not the internet's fault people are like that. It's that people are like that. God damn it. Address the root of the problem, not the thing that people use to facilitate. It's just like the gun thing. It's literally the argument. well, the computer seems to make people go crazy, so we'll just take away all the computers, or for computer read gun, and you see my point. Computers don't make people go crazy. People are already a little crazy, and then computers just make it easier. Just like take away all the guns and all the weapons we've come up with in the last 5,000 years, and people would just make shivs if they are that intent on hurting people. God damn it. Computers don't computers don't cause suicide. People being dicks causes suicide
You're
if
right.
they do it enough.
Like it allows people to bully them in. It allows them people to be bullied constantly because it used to be that once you left school it was over and you could at least retreat to your home and
Yeah, the
get
the
some
the
sanctuary
threshold of
there.
the home is no longer sacred or anything. Yeah,
Not only that, but one person can make it look like 1,000 people hate you with like bot accounts.
yeah, yeah. There's that. I mean, look at what a stranglehold the social justice warriors have just because they are the Twitterati.
And I've uh, I have to a bit of shame been on both sides of this,
Mm,
and even when I was the aggressor, I never really. It was always like a straight up face to face confrontation, never something like behind somebody's back.
mm. I'm sure there were rumors about me in high school, but fortunately for me, I never heard them. To, to be fair though, bullying is not something I have a great degree of experience with because sadly enough, largely because I have the crippled card. Um, nobody wants to be the one bullying the handicapped kid. So I probably got away with a little bit more smart mouthing and smart assery than I probably reasonably should have as a kid, simply because nobody wants to be the one bullying the crippled kid. In my defense, I usually was only a smartass to stupid people. And by that I don't mean people who were low IQ. I mean people who were acting like idiots. But even so, I probably did get away with a little bit more smartassery than I reasonably should have.
Yeah. Well, when I was the one who is being targeted, it really sucked. But I was always willing to confront the people who had done it head on. So it didn't. So it sucked, but it didn't last for very long.
Uh huh. And I imagine once you hit puberty, it stopped altogether because people didn't want to fuck with you at that point.
I mean, people would make some smart ass comments every now and then, but nothing really physical.
Hmm.
But it says people will basically will bully each other about pretty much every possible category. I'm sorry. Could you talk for a while? I gotta go get something to drink because my throat is super dry.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. People will bully you about anything and everything a chap can unload. So left the bear at Portobello Road, um, because if it looks like you have a vulnerability, someone somewhere will want to push that button. And how even the example we were talking about today was an example of basically the um the tables turning, because we all were raised on the ethos of the big scary jock picking on the nerd thing. um I think a lot of people, especially among the hipstery social justice crowd, don't want to actually see bullying stop. they are pound of flesh. They want their own back, by essentially inverting the social hierarchy. There was a comedy video, um, released. Gosh, it must be like a decade or so now, because it was in like 2012 or 2011. I don't even remember. But it was called Revenge of the Jocks, and it portrayed a situation where, because geek culture was the dominant culture now, um, there was an athlete character who got teased because he didn't know anything about the geek stuff. Um, and as funny as that seemed at the time, that would ever happen, it categorically is happening because we essentially have otherwise, all American jock type people being bullied by the rumor mills and abstract moralizing of effeminate hipster dudes now. Um, and again, I just want to say for the record, and I think I can speak for the majority of nerd kind on this. Yes, I I remember what it was like when geekdom wasn't the dominant culture and people got made fun of for it and stuff. And yes, there was a little Schadenfreude when geek culture became the dominant culture because it was a we told you so sort of thing. But that doesn't mean I want to see a situation where the big jockey guys are being bullied and harassed by the effeminate nerdy hipster dudes. Like I would rather the amount of bullying I would rather the scale of bullying remains completely flatlined. I want zero bullying of any kind. I don't want to see the nerds flip the switch and now be bullying the jocks. I don't want anyone to be bullied. And I hope to God I
Yeah.
can speak for most nerds
What
on that. Like I would
they've
rather no one be bullied, period.
what they've essentially done is they've built a system that can essentially be wielded like a weapon by against basically anyone they want.
Hmm.
And all that's going to do is bring out the worst qualities in people. Some people aren't just aren't going to bully people no matter what weapons, but other people, like, you've essentially given them a weapon and a shield to which to hide behind while they attack people.
Yeah, there's a level at which more bullying through
It just
abstract
seems
morality is more dangerous than physical bullying because everyone knows that on some level physical bullying is bullshit. But when you allow for moral bullying, people will bully because they think they have the moral high ground. People will bully because they think they're morally justified to do so. And that's when it goes from shoving the nerd into the locker to burning someone at the stake because they're a bad person, quote unquote.
yeah, and like you know, convincing people that somebody is a bad person can, like as I said before, like destroy their lives, destroy particularly their prospects to get a job, destroy their prospects romantically. This could affect literally every aspect of their life.
I mean, look at what happened to Nicholas
You
Sandman.
know
Look
what?
at what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse. Look at what happened um to Johnny Depp. Look at what happened to uh Justin Roiland.
Or who's the guy who's currently being kicked out of everything. Jonathan Majors, the guy that played, I believe, Kang, he got accused of some things that have yet to be proven, and so he's basically losing all of his acting opportunities.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ezra Miller remains unscathed largely. Again, I don't know how I stumbled on the metaphor of a bunch of
Prove him
vindictive
right.
nerds flipping the bullying hierarchy, but it appears to be the case.
So I think the problems with this is that everybody now could see that the solutions just caused an entirely new problem. But things like this are slow to be fixed, if ever, because there are now a lot of people who have a vested interest in keeping the system the way it is because they are advantaged by the current system, broken though it is.
Yeah, how do you convince the person who thinks they're in the moral right for burning heretics at the stake that they're in the wrong when they're that sure they have morality on their again it's the dangerous part of people who will people who will do harm to you with complete moral permission of their own conscience. Usually it when physical bullying happens, the bully usually gets ostracized and the victim gets helped. When moral and abstract bullying happens, you have a hell of a time convincing people that their morality is fucked.
I was gonna say I feel so bad for this family. Like there were so many things that could have been done to help this kid, and he was just failed at so many levels.
There are no words for the level of just sheer like there is a threshold whereby this level of incompetence actually crosses the Rubicon and becomes evil.
So let me ask you something. Do you think this is going to change anything for the school now? I mean, they say they're going to make this new position, but do you think this will actually have any tangible effect? Do you think
No,
anybody's going to
because
be
no, because here's the thing. Like we mentioned towards the beginning of the episode, um, what they're gonna do probably is they're gonna have a bunch of psychologists on staff. But the current rules of the APA institutionalize the feminist framework, institutionalize that toxic masculinity is not only a thing, but the source of all men's problems. And so, therefore, if a man is having an issue, it's because of his own masculinity that it's happening. That's not going to solve anything. It's not like they're gonna. It's not like they're gonna hire Paul Elan, Tom Golden, or Janice Fiamengo, i.e., people who actually understand how men's psychology differs from women's psychology and don't morally shame them for it. They're not gonna hire the Prim Reaper, who's another psychologist who works mainly with men from a men's rights or men's issues perspective. Um, they're not gonna hire these figures. They're gonna hire the sorts of people who put that shit in the APA guidelines to begin with, and it's probably just gonna exacerbate the problem further and further because it's gonna give more moral permission for people who are oppressed, quote unquote, to flip the hierarchy rather than just abolishing it. Um, and they'll do so with the permission of their own moral consciences, and that's the most dangerous kind of bullying, as we've recently discovered. Or I say recently, it's something that we've known forever. It's just a lesson we have to relearn, especially as it applies to men, because again, the issue of our society simply just does not give a fuck about men. It is an issue that definitely needs to finally be fucking addressed, please. Men are human too and are
I
as
think
vulnerable as anyone else. Can we start institutionalizing that principle and know their
I
vulnerability is not
think
their own frickin' fault
one
or some kind of
is
immorality?
the I believe it's the students themselves, the ones who didn't necessarily start but may have bought into the rumors about the kid. I think I hope that they will, reflect on this and maybe reflect upon their own morality and how easy it was for them to buy into something false. and how they could just go along with contributing to the absolute misery that this kid had to endure until he eventually took his own life. I hope the students reflect on that.
Um, uh, Nelson, uh, that kind of mentality, the one you just described in that comment there, is exactly why this shit happens, dude. Well, he made a joke about this thing, so obviously he was guilty of it. I mean, I don't want to strawman you, dude, but that is a very slippery slope of, well, I don't like this guy, so clearly he's immoral. I'm not shaming you or anything. I would watch that mentality because that's exactly how we landed here in the goddamn first place. That's almost as close. That's almost the that's very close to the feminist argument of, well, he's a man, so obviously he's bestial and rapey.
Okay, I'm gonna here because I'm really not well. Do you have any final thoughts?
Again, speaking for all nerd kind, yes, I wanted geeks to get their day in court, and I wanted the bullying to stop. I didn't want it to invert. I didn't want it to be effeminate hipster douches taking down the school's golden boy. I'd rather just stop anyone from bullying anyone else. And also, women can bully men just as easily as men can bully each other. It's not something unique to masculinity. And in many ways, feminine bullying is fucking worse than masculine bullying.
Absolutely agree. And already one. I've been Mystery.
I've been Dalton Mortimer, the Authenticator, and we have been the Duality of Men. Cheers, guys.
Bye, everybody.